Hey, what's up? Dr. Earl here with my friend Alyssa Hayes, and this is Alyssa and the Doctor. How's everybody going tonight? How you doing there, Alyssa? Everything going okay with you there?
I'm doing good, and how are you?
I'm doing well. We had a pretty easy night at work. You know, I just came straight home. You know, had a little bit of chow, and I came up right here to do this program tonight. You know, basically, just working on a lot of stuff at work. You know, basically, we usually were expecting a huge crowd around the 7 p.m. 7:30 hour, like we usually do on say Thursdays and Fridays. But thank goodness there was not that much out there today. So thank goodness for that. So we was able to clean up, get a lot of stuff done, and hurry like hell so we can be a part of this broadcast.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So basically, we just want to. Basically, it's a good old. Basically, what I want to. First thing I want to touch up is, of course, some of that's been on the mind of a lot of people. It's been a lot on the mind. I first heard about this program from the Super Ugly show. They were talking about this throughout the whole show, and there was also discussing on the program This Is Life, with Rocky and his wife Jessica. Rocky being, of course, from the Super Ugly show as well. It was also mentioned on Farmhouse Network. It was also mentioned on one of Vince Russo's podcasts. Simply he had a Razor Fist, Stevie Richards, and some other guy up there, Sabin somewhere. I don't know, forgot his last name, but it's a controversy that I seriously don't think is ever going to go away. Meaning, of course, Leaving Neverland. The Michael Jackson documentary, focusing on a couple of sexual abuse victims, who say that Michael Jackson did molest them. Now, I'm sure you heard about this for a while now, Alyssa. About this whole thing there, and
yeah, I heard about the whole thing about it, so about Michael Jackson, but. Even though I'm a big fan of him, so yeah, I can understand that.
Mm-hmm. Do you think he did it? Or do you think it was all a setup? Do you think these people are just doing the... Because some people will try to do that, People will try that kind of bullshit either way, It's no secret about that, When you think about it, people will try do whatever they can. You get whatever money out of you, and they will do it. They do it no matter what. I mean, when you think about it, so many people have tried extorting celebrities. I know some of this is not covered, but you know what? It is. It does happen frequently a lot of times. And sadly, it's usually the artist, either it's the movie star or the singer or the musician, director, or so whoever who pays for this all, because people are going to now view that individual as a rapist, a sexual harasser. Especially nowadays with the Me Too movement going overload like it is right now, and especially with the revelations of Kevin Spacey being sexually harassing female employees, Charlie Rose, who used to be with CBS, and then of course now Matt Lauer, he got booted from the Today Show because of this same thing, and of course that big ugly fug Harvey Weinstein, obviously he probably got no pussy, otherwise. It's just, come on, and us, the people out there who, and of course we cannot forget Bill Cosby. Cosby. When we got the notification that he was going to be served about 8 to 10 years in prison, we couldn't help but be angry. I mean, what are your thoughts about this? You think some of these people are these actors, directors are going, or agents are going overboard on this shit, or is it because they figure they're on top of the heap and they can't do no wrong, that the world bows to them? Hey, I'm a movie star. I get what I want. That they develop such an ego, or do you think that some people are coming out there doing all this because they want a piece of either publicity, piece of the superstar's pocket, or whichever? What are your thoughts on this?
I mean, to perfectly be honest, I think it's mostly I think they're overboard for some reason, because Bill Cosby is I'm a big fan of him, even though he's really getting old, and especially he's blind, and people needs to realize that man's been working for, I don't know how many movies he's been working, and for some reason, this guy, I know he's been doing anything in the past, but he just, for him to be blind and going to prison for it, and it's like I really feel bad for him, but it just, people needs to realize this man has been, I don't know how many movies he's been for, since in the past. And I think they went way too overboard. They need to just give him a chance to speak, let him speak, and from his side of the story.
It's basically a hero from nowadays. It's and this is a crying shame about this. We often get the one side of the story without getting the other. And knowing the court of the public opinion as it is, people are going to really assume that, oh, believe you. Like, for instance, I mean, who knows? That's how the majority of the people usually is at time. When you think about it, especially since the court of a public opinion always seems to outweigh the court of law. I mean, with R. Kelly, basically you check the tweet pages of R. Kelly, Jussie Smollett, Michael Jackson, or Michael Jackson's Facebook page, as I did. All the opinions, all the revelations, the stories about that molestation case. Like, say, for instance, if some woman tweets out, "I love you, R. Kelly. I support you all the way." That's how it is. That was the majority. That was the absolute majority, basically, in that thread there. So, especially with all these revelations about R. Kelly being, a bastard, telling the girls not when to eat, when to go out, what to wear, and such, kind of say it's like we're in an era right now where everybody that we love and respect has a dark secret, and that's that dark secret that's going to really bring them down. And let me give myself an example with retaining to Bill Cosby. Now, back when I was a kid, I used to love watching Bill Cosby. He had a small variety show of his own, back, I believe it was ABC. The man was like one of the first black co-stars of a primetime television show called, he was back in the 60s, it was called I started out as a child, wonderfulness, 200 miles to Russell, my brother who I slept with, nothing perverted about that. It was talking about him sharing his bed with his brother because his family lived in projects, I guess, from what I understand. But you look at all the television programs he was starred in, Fat Albert and the Cosby Kids, that cartoon series that ran on Saturday mornings on CBS, Of course, the Cosby Show, one of the most elite of primetime programs in the 1980s. That lasted for how many years? And of course, the spinoff, A Different World, which starred his then briefly then TV daughter Lisa Bonet. He also encouraged everybody, to step up their education, seek that, instead of stealing Coca-Cola, using the N word, educate. Basically, he was earned a PhD, and but at the but at the same time, he had this dark sexual fetish
Hmm.
that that's disturbing. I mean, like drugging. He had this kink of drugging women and then having sex with them while they were passed out or zonked out, as he would say, and which classifies as sexual assault, no matter how you look at it. That's rape
Hmm.
in a lot of ways. I mean, like 75 women coming forward onto this. Now, when I first heard about this was in 1997. Some say there was like an extortion plot, try to get money from it because there are some who, as I mentioned, who tried to do that. I mentioned that a couple times before, and now with all these other women out there coming out the same thing, it's like, what the fuck? If I was Bill Cosby, I figured at times I would at least seek some help, to do something about this, but alas, he never did. And next thing you know, boom, he's in the slammer, legally
Hmm.
blind, believe it or not. You notice how he was holding on to what his defense lawyers, his eyes kind of like look squinty, and he was carrying a cane with him.
Hmm.
Now the thing is, how in the world can a 80-something-year-old man who's legally blind survive in the slammer?
Hmm.
Can you or can't you?
That depends. I would always say you can't, but no, there's like I know if 100% blind, you even though you can't see, but you can hear anything that
Mhm.
surrounds you. But probably you can't. I would always say 100%. I don't know for some reason.
It's just it's just the idea that somebody that we you know all the work, all the efforts that he put into all these years in the entertainment world, all the efforts that I mentioned has now been tarnished to shit because of this little preferable this let me find the words fetish, dark,
Hmm.
disturbing sexual fetish. That's that reeks of despicability, I guess you could say, if there's another term for it. I have somebody else come up with it, but either way, it's disturbing, and to find it, of course, now with, of course, Michael Jackson, that's going to loom what the Ball Station case, it's going to loom with him for probably forever and ever, because we're still there's still not that skepticism of saying, what if he did? What if he didn't? Who knows? Like you remember back in 2002 when the Living with Michael Jackson documentary aired on the ABC network, and
Hmm.
he admitted that there's nothing wrong to sharing your bed with a child. You remember
Hmm.
that quote there?
Oh, I remember that one.
Every fucking talk show was on the TV, on the radio, was blowing up about this whole thing. Everybody was talking about it. And if you notice, the boy that was sitting next to him, you know, kind of like had his head on Michael's shoulder, like a lover in a sort of a lovable pose or something like that, like a spouse
Hmm.
would do, you know. And what's kind of funny is that, you know, since that trial started off, and since after his death, that documentary has aired a few times after that, and the boy's face was blurred out, whereas
Hmm.
originally it wasn't. You know. Now, it's something I also need to bring up here. The '93 molestation case against Michael Jackson.
Hmm.
Now, Evan Chandler, a dentist, accused Michael Jackson of sexually abusing his then 13-year-old son, Jordan Neal Chandler, nicknamed Jordy. The relationship between Jackson and Jordan had begun in 1992. Chandler intentionally encouraged the friendship. The friendship became well known in the tabloid media, reported that Jackson had become a member of the Chandler family. Remember, he's Michael Jackson. He's the clean cut
Hmm.
all American kid, you know, the clean cut singer who don't drink, who don't do drugs, who preach against, you know, always did all the girls and all the people were so infatuated with him back then, especially when he was a black man. This is by the time he was morphing into a white woman around this time there.
Hmm.
You know, in 1993, Chandler confronted his ex-wife, June, who had custody of Jordan at that time, with suspicions that their son may have been in an appropriate. But June dismissed his worries. Chandler
Hmm.
threatened to go public with the evidence he claimed to have had. After the lawsuit settlement was announced on January 25, 1994, LA District Attorney Gil, I'm going to say my name is good here, let me get this here, Garcetti, announced that he supported amending a law that prohibits forcing children who say they have been sexually assaulted to testify in criminal proceedings. The amendment introduced into the state assembly a, the week of February 7th of that year would have immediately allowed Garcetti to compel Jordan to testify. Now, here's something else you gotta keep in mind.
Hmm.
Allegedly, Evan Chandler committed suicide 4 months after Michael Jackson's death. And a couple of days before that, I was riding on the bus to visit my girlfriend at the time, who was living in Ecorse, you know, a long way to get there, which will be another subject. The boy Jordan said in a statement that Jackson never touched him.
Hmm.
And this was about a couple of days, as I said, a couple of days before that, after that, I meant to say, Dale Chandler committed suicide. So for
Hmm.
all the MJ diehards out there, that's telling them that this guy was probably trying to extort money or trying to get attention or probably just going after him for some oddball reason. But
Hmm.
still, you know, people still speculate, you know, because of that one quote in that Martin Bashir documentary. I mean, when you look, of course, but then again, when you look at it, you know, the guy was screwed up. Jackson was. He was a screwed up guy. I mean, he never had a childhood. He suffered physical and possibly sexual abuse from his father, who passed away a couple years back, Joe Jackson.
Mm-hmm.
He was never able to date a high school. He had to work consistently. They probably had to have tutors or had to do their education at home, because, obviously they can't go out because they're now singers, they're superstars, like they're featured on TV Bop magazines. When you think about, and plus, they got to keep and keep the public away from because the girls would just go out and rip on. Remember how the girls would just run after the Beatles in those old footage back then?
Yeah.
Yeah, it would be something like that. Same thing with David Cassidy, when he was in his
Hmm.
prime there. Yeah. Now, basically the guy never had a childhood. So now that he's on his own, he never had as a kid, But when you look at it, at that time, Michael Jackson, a full-grown adult, hanging with young kids, it's like, what the fuck? Still, it just don't seem right, It doesn't make no sense at all. Now, if you knew a 30-year-old, something-year-old man who had a bunch of kids hanging around him all the time, going places, going here, going this spot, going to the mall, going to the movies, going to the swim. Wouldn't that raise a suspicion to you, everybody else around you? It's like, what the fuck is up with this guy? How come he's got all these young boys and girls with him all the time, and he's not even their father?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that would be surprised to be the first thing would be suspicious. Like, what the heck are those kids doing with this guy who's not their dad? And it's like, why hanging out with this person right there?
Mm-hmm. I'm thinking probably because possibly the kids are hanging because looking for something like a mother or father figure, because there are a lot of kids out there who probably don't have either, like a like so that's I'm thinking probably that's what they're looking for,
Hmm.
because kids, like, for instance, woman that I was involved with for 3.5 years named Nancy. Her name was Beth. Now Beth, had somewhat of a mental disorder there, so she was trying to self-medicate herself with alcohol. She'd been to therapy many times. I don't know how she is doing now, but it's kind of it was almost because it's been about ages since Nancy passed away in 2001. But
Hmm.
when she was about 5 years old, so it was just her and her mother. A lot of guys at that time, it wasn't, I guess what it was is that she was basically looking for not just a boyfriend, but also a father figure. And I guess when you think about it, it was also her way of keeping herself from not being alone. You know, that level of loneliness is going to creep up on you, basically when you don't have a father or a mother by your side, And
Hmm.
I guess a lot of kids out there, a lot of urban kids who grew up without their fathers, grew up with a single parent, whether mostly a mother. A lot of times, they often seek someone who's like a father figure to them.
Hmm.
And when you think about it, here's Michael Jackson buying them, well, probably buying them candy, taking them to the movies, taking them everywhere else, such and such and such, that's what they're going to seek. Michael Jackson is possibly, they probably see him as their yes man. Michael, can we ride this pony in the park? Sure you can, little John. Something like that. And the fact that he's Michael Jackson, the biggest superstar in the world, next to the Beatles and Pink Floyd, it kind of makes sense. And at that time, Michael Jackson was like an influence to all these kids, to be a dancer and all that stuff, all that, the dances, moves, they loved his videos. They loved the story messages behind it. The story behind the video for Beat It was it kind of makes sense.
Hmm.
Basically, was Michael Jackson. There's a gang fight is about to occur in some alleyway inside of a warehouse, and it's up to Michael Jackson to stop it. And just beat it. And the plus the story behind the song "Beat It" pretty much sums it up as well. You
Hmm.
try to be a man, but you're not. You think you're so tough. You think you're a man. But you get involved with these guys, you're going to end up as toast, bro. That's basically the idea behind the song. You know. So.
basically, it's like mostly like before he passed, especially with his doctor, personal doctor, mostly
Hmm. Yeah.
for him to give Michael Jackson the CPR in the bed. It's like that's not how you do the CPR. You have to do it on the floor because
Hmm.
if you do it on the bed, that's not gonna help. That's not gonna do the CPR right because you have to do it on flat, like on
Hmm.
the
On
floor
the hard
because
ground.
yeah.
We had to. Yeah, we had to do that to a guy back in Detroit. His name was Little Ronnie. Was drank us some champagne, and me and a couple others had to bring his ass back to try his work, giving him CPR until the ambulance came along.
Hmm.
You know, got to be on the flat ground. Because the bed is too soft. You can't really get the all that stuff to work right. I guess.
Especially that, and then the medication that he gave
Hmm.
Michael Jackson. That the one, like, I know everything about medication since I learned it from my mother since that day. But
Hmm.
like for example, like there's one guy who's into like just possessed by darkness. He mixed with LSD and a handful of LSD and painkiller. Now those two, if you mix those two together, those two will kill you. Those two pills
Hmm.
will kill you because those are most powerful pills. You cannot take those two. If doesn't matter if you take handful or a whole thing of LSD or LSD mixed with painkiller, those things will kill you because I guarantee you that stuff will you're not gonna able to survive mostly,
Hmm.
and especially with the anesthesia with the what you call it, start with propofol. I think that's how you pronounce it, Earl.
I think so. Ibuprofen.
Yeah, I think so. It's something that's
Hmm.
anesthesia from the surgery you had to do
Hmm.
because I guess when his Michael Jackson's personal doctor put that stuff on him, and that you can't do that because that's only
Hmm.
if you have license to do it in the hospital, but you can't do it in mostly in somebody's home. Because I think that's just wrong for what they did, especially what the doctor did.
Well, you gotta also gotta remember, the fact that let's not forget some of these doctors can be money hungry. You look at the doctor who was involved with Elvis Presley up until his death. When
Hmm.
you think about all the medications he was taking at that time. Well, eventually after Elvis died, the doctor lost his license. And did this doctor who worked on Michael Jackson, did he ever lose his license by chance?
Yes, he did. He did lose
Hmm.
his license, but he didn't went to jail, but he just lost his license. That is completely it. And for him, because on the what you call the speaker, the spirit box saying that Michael Jackson, the spirit of Michael Jackson saying that his doctor killed him. So
Mm-hmm.
I believe people think, if y'all people in the chat think, do you think if it's true? If it's not, let me know on the chat, because let me and Dr. Earl know, because sometimes on the spirit thing, on the spirit box, that Michael Jackson did talk on the spirit, saying that his doctor killed him, which I
Mm-hmm.
believe that mostly definitely he did kill.
I would not be. I wouldn't be. You know what? I would not be surprised. As I said, doctors can become money hungry. Most doctors, like say, this happened to me before. About years back, I had a massive infected foot, and my left foot was massively infected. You know, with this thing called osteomyelitis, which was a bone infection. You know,
Mm-hmm.
basically, when that was all taken care of. I was getting calls from other physicians, other offices saying, "Oh, we were recommended by your personal doctor, to come in." And so, when would you like to make an appointment? It's like, wait a minute, I don't recall making an appointment with you guys. Basically, they just, basically what's called the get the money kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
They'll recommend this other office, they'll recommend that office so they could come in and get your money just as well. Then there are doctors who will try to prescribe this, they'll prescribe that. Even though the medication, it may not be working or such and such. It may not be maybe the opposite of what you really need, but they're not going to probably, some may not do that because they want to keep that money coming in. And remember, the money that Elvis and Mike MJ had at that time, pretty much sums it up why they would do that.
I mean, I can understand that. It just, I mean, if I were people, and mostly, and anybody who listens to chat or watching the live stream needs to watch carefully when it comes to the prescription pills, I would definitely watch carefully, because you never know. You never know what's going to happen when it comes to pills that they prescribing you, and then the more money they want, they pay for every single month, or like mostly every time,
read
because
the read the
yeah.
label basically, because you heard of Keith Moon, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, the drummer of the Who helped control his drinking because he was a massive drinker at that time. You know, he would be consistently drunk at all the times, tearing up hotel rooms and other shit. He was on this medication, that particular medication, which he hardly knew anything about, and eventually killed him. You know,
Mm.
OD'd on the medication there. But because basically he didn't read the label.
Mm.
Up is of course R. Kelly. We all know we all heard the story about that. Of course, when you think about the Michael Jackson documentary, it comes a few months, almost nearly a month and a half after the R. Kelly, which of course was on the Lifetime Network back in January. A lot of people were pissed off. I guess R. Kelly, really was starting to lose his fan base one by one. He got dropped from his record label. He was on CBS This Morning. Gail King was trying to interview him, and he blows up and loses his shit. And starts crying, saying, "Well, trying to fucking murder me. I'm trying. Everybody's fucking after me." Blah. As we see, But
Mhm.
when you look at it, like there is, when you listen to the people talk in the R. Kelly's docu-series, it's just, all these people, like, involved with a 15-year-old singer named, we know as Aaliyah. It was
Mm.
proven that he did marry her at age 15, back around 94, when she first came out. He was the producer and co-songwriter of some of her earlier hits. Back and forth, back back and forth. That was her hit, and of course, R. Kelly was the man who wrote it and produced. You know, and there was a lot of reports that he had married her at that age. So basically, now with all this coming out, now I need to add this here. There's possibly two good reasons why, if he is a investor, there's possible two reasons why. I mentioned this on my channel here, or a video on my channel here. One, they probably think it's normal, or two, it's a form of payback. One night I was when I was outside, I was watching a video of R. Kelly's brother Kerry do an interview with some radio talk show host, and he was described how he and Robert Kelly was sexually molested by their older sister, who possibly, of course, was molested by their father. So basically, she was passing the torch on, so and so, as you could say. So possibly either R. Kelly thinks it's normal to molest young girls or boys and such, or he possibly may be doing it as a form of payback. I grew up in an abusive household. My father used to molest me, used to touch my pecker and all that stuff. He used to make me, touch me everywhere. He touched him in there. I grew up used to get beaten all the time. And yet I see all these young kids laughing, having a good time, going to school. We couldn't go to a nice class. We couldn't go to this there. They have loving parents. Why did I not have a loving parent? Ah! I'm going to make these people feel my pain. That kind of the revenge factor that I spoke of on one of the programs on this channel. Make everybody pay for somebody else's crime. That possibly the two reasons why. Because especially it may be the revenge factor. One of those two, basically. I'm just babbling on here, but still, there are those two reasons. Those two reasons are possibly one reason why that cycle often continues. So it's just really, it's disturbing. This man that had a lot of countless hits. He wrote that song, I Believe I Can Fly, which is a note of inspiration to everybody who's down there. They listen to that song and they feel a lot better. They feel they can do a lot better after that song. It's often played at sometimes one graduation from a medical school and stuff. I attended there for a friend of mine who was a graduate. So basically, it's just really, it is upsetting. Now, we could probably close this chapter with a story about somebody that you may have not heard of. His name is Gary Glitter.
I think familiar, but it sounds familiar, but yeah, I do.
So he was a 70s glam rocker. Basically back when Slade, Sweet, David Bowie was doing his Ziggy Stardust gimmick there back in the 70s. Basically, he years, but it was told by the judge he was lucky he didn't get longer. Now, here's the thing. Gary Glitter had songs like I Didn't Know I Loved You Till I Saw You Rock and Roll, Hello, Hello, I'm Back, He basically had a song called Do You Wanna Touch? Yeah, do you wanna touch? Yeah, and of course we all a couple girls, one ages 11 and 12. Basically, Glitter was also attempted to 8, 2 years later, he subjected a 12-year-old girl to a prolonged episode of sexual abuse after enticing her to his hotel room and plying her with champagne. 13 at the time, she was lured back to his dressing room and found a performance in Watford. He was jailed in 1999 after admitting possessing 4,000 indecent. But the jury were not told that he was also jailed in Vietnam in 2002 after being found guilty of sexually abusing two girls aged 10, arrested as part of Operation U-Tree, which was set up by the wake of the Jimmy Savile scandal to investigate historic sex offenses. Now, here's some errors here. Glitter's real name, has shown himself to be a habitual sexual predator who took advantage of the star status afforded to him by targeting young girls who trusted him and were in awe of his fame. His lack of remorse and defense that the victims were lying make his crimes the more indefensible. Gosh. And like I said, this is a man that Joan Jett, covered, were respected along the many peers who helped influence bands like Def Leppard and such. And now I guess this happened in 2015. So basically, now this stuff is coming out. Basically, it's just upsetting. It's really upsetting. It's like it's getting to the point now, like every celebrity out there is not to be trusted or something. Like maybe it's best we don't trust any more celebrities. With this Me Too movement going on, and it's now to the point where the guy who currently playing Superman is admitted that he's afraid to date anybody because of this. You ask a girl out for a date, you may say something, hey girl, you look nice, I pretty like that dress you're wearing, it makes you look very attractive as hell. It's just, I was told to give 5 minutes, and basically it's just, all right. So basically it's just, it's a simple fact that, it's possible to date anybody nowadays. Maybe it's best to stay single at this period of time. Just really.
I mean, whether if you, people, if you like celebrity or you don't like celebrity, that is like your opinion. That's everybody's opinion. That's everybody's thoughts. Me. I like sometimes I like celebrities and sometimes I don't like celebrities, but it doesn't matter to me.